forward to D3 or E3.
Yeah, so we are live now. So good afternoon, Mr. Attila.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Nice
Uh,
to hear you and see you.
Nice to meet you again. So we have been working for a few weeks during this live streams, and we have been exclusively streaming on YouTube since last week. So, like I read from your Twitter posts that you have been doing some physical exercise as well. So, can you please share it with our viewers?
Yeah, I decided to go and run every day. So yesterday was my 15th day,
Mm.
and every day because I went. There was actually a really interesting moment in my life. It was like 20 years. It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was already around 24, nearly 2400 player, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started to run because I met in a chess tournament actually with a chess player who was also like a running coach. And he said I am a talented runner. so I started to run because he gave me some ideas how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that summer, I was running like every day around 1 hour or sometimes even more. And what was interesting, I did not study anything new on that, or did not make also much preparation on it just before the games and the tournaments. But suddenly I started to play 2500 performances. So like 100 points stronger, I started to play without doing anything else, but just running every day.
Okay, so just by running. Okay, so it seems the audio is quite low. How about my volume? The audience, if you can just let me know. Um, so, Mr. Attila, it seems your audio is not very clear.
What can I do here? Because
So, last time you started to using the headphone, and that was better.
okay. Okay. One moment. Sorry, please give me a little time. I need to get the headphone then.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, when Mr. Attila is getting ready with this headphone, let's try to discuss about the position we have on the screen. It's black to play. Now today I thought I will show some positions on calculation. Yeah, so Mr. Attila, he'll be getting the headset. So in the meantime, let's look at the position. Yeah, good afternoon everyone. So in this position we can see that black is an exchange down, and the light as compensation, black has light squares control. The light squares near the white king are not very safe, and he has a bishop and queen, but there are no immediate threats. And also the b pass pawn is really quite dangerous. If white manages to start advancing the pawn, then black will have to worry about it as well. So, Mr. Attila, um, you're back, I guess.
Yes, is it better now?
So let me ask the audience. So for me, it doesn't make a difference. It looked the same both times. How about the audience? Is Mr. Attila's voice better now? So any feedback on Mr. Attila's volume, sound?
Black has a strong bishop.
Yeah. So black is an exchange down, and the b pass pawn is very important. Yeah. So now they say, some say it is better than before.
Yeah, you need. Okay, maybe I will do this. Make it. Maybe my microphone. I will make it.
OBS, huh?
Yeah. So let's hope this will help.
Is it any better now? Increase
Is it
gain.
better?
Yeah, we increase the gain. So, Mr. Attila, can you speak something?
Yeah, so yeah, black has some counterplay for the exchange.
Yeah, yeah, now it is fine. Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, wonderful.
So let's go into the session. So the B pawn is very dangerous, and without the B pawn, I think black has fantastic compensation. But with the B pawn, white has a simple plan, just advance the pawn all the way. Now, so some suggested to flip the board because it is black to play, but we will understand why we are not flipping the board as we progress. Okay, so Mr. Attila, what should black do here? Is there any way for him to try to save the game?
First idea would be something like pushing the H pawn to somehow open out the position. That was my first idea.
Okay, so let me invite you. Okay. Yeah, send the invite on chess.com.
Accepted.
Yeah, thanks. So
that's when somehow you need to open up, I think, his king to be able to make some real danger.
Okay. What else is possible?
Okay, the other is like maybe Rook A2, and then Queen F3. Maybe that's need to calculate. Maybe that just works.
Okay, so Rook A2, and if he takes Queen A2, then maybe Queen to F3. Yeah, so this is the critical continuation here. Now the question is, Rook A2 is an interesting idea, very attractive, but we have to find out whether it actually works or not. That's what we are trying to do from now. So let's calculate Rook A2. And to the audience also, I would request you to analyze Rook A2, and you can share your analysis in the chat window, in the comments.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Rook A2, probably he's forced to take it, because if he goes away like F1 or even the Rook G2 comes, and that's just very strong, so he should capture. Then Queen F3. Actually, there is no checkmate strat, but the strat is Queen H1 check, King F2, and then we're taking the Rook on C1, plus still the white king will be in a vulnerable position, maybe. No, actually threatening to win the queen on A2, yeah, so that's a strat after Queen F3. Queen H1 check, King F2, Queen G2 check, and then Queen takes A2.
Yeah. So like Mr. Attila said, after Rook A2, white is forced to capture Queen into A2, and black plays Queen F3, and the threat is Queen H1 check, King F2. Now there are two threats. One is Queen into Rook, Queen into C1. The other is Queen takes H2 check, King moves Queen into A2. So I will show these moves on the screen little later, after Mr. Attila has finished solving the position. So I would request those of you who are watching to try to follow the analysis in your head. Try to imagine the position. That way you can improve your calculation skills and visualization skills. So for Queen F3, what is the best move for white? So we are analyzing Rook A2, Queen A2, Queen F3.
One idea is to, so yeah, we need to make like a list of moves, what can we do. Queen B2 was one idea, because then they are protecting everything is protected in the white camp, the queen protected by the rook, and the queen protects both rooks. So queen b2 looks one idea which I like. Probably attacking like queen a8 check or rook c8 is not much attractive, because just after king h7 there will be no more threats, or there is no continuation. Still need to concentrate on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So looks like queen b2 is the
Okay,
if
so we
there's
have queen b2 one more, but what I would suggest in such situations is, if queen b2 is something that can be analyzed till the end, then we should try to do that, analyze it till the end, and then try to prove either one way or the other, either it is working or not working. Now, if we are able to prove that after queen b2 black has nothing and white is winning, then obviously rook a2 idea is refuted. Now the other possibility is that after queen b2, let us say black either gets a draw or black gets a win, in which case queen b2 is not working. And in such a case, then once we spend like 7-8 minutes analyzing queen b2 position, and then we find out that it is not working, then it is possible that we might get very nervous and we may think like after rook a2 white is losing. But in fact, after rook a2 we see that queen a2 is forced, and after queen f3, now we have not made a list, we have only seen queen b2 and it is not working. So it is very much possible that we may come to a incorrect conclusion. Because queen b2 is not working, we may think after rook a2 white is losing. So to avoid such a situation, there are two alternatives possible. One, we analyze queen b2 with the realization that if queen b2 is not working, we will start making list at that point. Or we can make the list now itself, identify few other moves, and then start analyzing queen b2. If it does not work, we can quickly move to other moves in the list. So it's up to you which method you would like to follow at that point. So for the audience, I will just make the moves. I will take them back shortly. So this is first, and now let's say to show the threat, I am making this pawn move. So now this is one threat, and then the king remains weak. But more serious threat is either of this, and then win the queen. So this is the threat. So Mr. Attila is trying to find a defense for white at this moment, and the move he has considered to be working is queen b2, because it defends the queen, defends the rook, and also the queen is not hanging anymore. So this is what he is trying to analyze now. So let's try to, we have seen the position, so now let's try to continue the analysis. What's happening after queen b2? So he can give checks, nothing else to do for black.
Probably just one check. Actually, you can give only a check on h1.
Queen h1 check.
King f2. Then then he can give checks again, maybe on g2 or f3 or h2. If he gives a check, any of those checks, then we play king e1. Okay, and then he can give a check again, maybe on g1.
Yeah.
Then we go to king to d2. Then check on f2, then king c3. And there are no more checks. Pawn check maybe on d4, but we can just take that with the king.
No, after king c3, there is a one more mate.
Sorry, that's a checkmate. Oh my god. Actually, he can capture on e3, and that's a checkmate.
Yeah, queen e3 is a checkmate.
Oh my god, so that looks then bad. Because if you go to d1 with the king, then bishop f3 check, and that's also a checkmate, because queen e2, queen takes c2.
Yeah, so let me quickly show it to the audience. So now we were discussing this, and now if you go here, then this check and problems, and if he comes here, it's a mate. So we can see that. So now what should be the conclusion when we see this mate?
We need to go back a little bit and look if we can do something better with the king, or if it's not, then maybe then instead of queen b2 we need to change.
Yeah. So the whole idea is not working. Probably queen b2 is the mistake.
Okay. Yeah, because then it's a perpetual check always if you don't go to that direction to go away. So queen b2 is not working, then we need something else. Actually, what about queen d2? Was an idea, queen d2. That also protects the rook and kind of close to the king, so maybe we can protect, but we need to calculate. If queen d2, then he gives a check again on h1, then king f2. And if he gives a check on g2, then king e1. Then queen g1 check, then king e2. He gives a check again on g2, then king to d1. Ah, yeah, then he gives a check on maybe f1, and then we need to play queen to e1. Okay, looks like maybe can we run away? Bishop f3 check, then we run away, I think, king to c2. If he gives a check on f3 with the queen, then king d2. Okay, that looks good. Let me check it again. So after queen d2, then queen h1 check, then king f2. Then he queen g2 check, then king e1. He can only give another check on g1, and then we go back to e2. There's probably nothing better than give a check again on g2. If bishop f3, we can just take it. We go king to d3. So queen g2 check, then we go to d1, and if bishop f3, then we go to c2 with the king. If queen f1 check, then queen e1, and again with the queen, it's not much we can do. With the bishop f3, then king to d2. Yeah, that.
So it looks like working.
Looks good. Yeah, that looks like working.
But there is a forced draw after queen d2 as well. There is a perpetual check.
Wow.
So
okay.
Queen h1 check, king f2, queen h2 check. Removing the pawn makes sense. King e1. Now queen g1 check, king e2, right?
Yeah.
So now we have to give the correct check. We have two checks. One is queen to g2, the other is queen to h2. We had analyzed only queen to g2, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we have to analyze queen h2 and see if it makes a difference.
Okay, so queen h2, then if he goes to d1 with the king. Okay.
Now
no. Okay, we have the
three checks: queen h1, queen g1, queen h5, right?
Yeah.
If queen g1,
queen h5, because he cannot do queen e2 because bishop f3.
And he'll be forced to come to e1, in which case we again go queen h1 and makes a perpetual. So let me show it to the audience. So we are trying to give check when the king comes up, check and win the queen. So this queen is hanging, and the other threat is check and take the rook. So these two threats are there, either win the queen or winning the rook. So we had seen some time back that queen b2 is not helping, because if he tries to run, it's actually checkmate. The square is taken up, and this is a problem. So we were analyzing queen d2, and initially we thought it is a draw, and the line was something like this. Now he has this. Now if you give check, then something like this, and all the checks are stopped. And after queen e1, if we give bishop check, he can run with the king again. Now we don't have much checks and the checks are stopped, right? So we thought
Yes.
white can win after queen d2, but unfortunately after queen d2 we have this check, and we can give either of the checks. And now we saw only this, but we had to see queen h1 as well. So if queen g2, he has this, and we have the same problem. The only difference is the h2 pawn is not there, but it doesn't really matter. This pawn is good enough. So we have to go to this moment, and we have to analyze this check. This is very important move, and it is quite easy to miss this move, because when we are seeing these checks, we won't realize that there is a big difference between either of the checks. We may think they both are more or less same, but generally similar and same, there is a difference. And now if he tries to run back, we have this check. This is very important. Now the king cannot run. So if he is going to come to e1, we again give a check, and we can give this check again. Now if he tries to run, we have to give this check again. Very important. The point is, when he comes here, we have this. This is the whole point, and black escapes, right? So he has to take a perpetual. So from this, what we can conclude is both queen b2 and queen d2 are not working for white. So we have to retrace our steps back. So one thing we can learn from this is that even when grandmasters or international masters or strong players, they are analyzing a position, they don't always get the solution in their first attempt. They try some idea and then try to make it work, and then it seems to be working, and then they check it a little more carefully, thoroughly, and then they realize there is some hole in their analysis. They try to plug the hole, and when it is not working, then they come up with some other alternative and try to make it work. So this process keeps repeating on and off, and finally they try to hit the solution. So the point is, we should be ready to move back and forth in our analysis, and each time we do that, we try different alternatives, and whenever we feel like we have got the solution, for example, in this case, Mr. Attila thought queen d2 is working, but unfortunately when we checked it a little more thoroughly, this queen h2, queen h5 check, it's giving perpetual check for black, and white is not winning. But there is a win after rook a2, queen a2, queen f3. If white plays correctly, he can win, and that's what we are trying to find. So let's try again. Rook a2, queen a2, queen f3. Now we have seen both queen b2 and queen d2. They both are not working. And one move you saw, but you rejected that move. So one threat is queen h1, king f2, queen into c1. That is already giving us a clue to what we can do.
Like I was thinking, like rook c8 check also.
Yeah, rook c8 check. So with rook c8 check, at least we are saving the rook. Queen h1 check and queen into c1 idea has been eliminated.
And also we open up for the king sometimes to go.
Yeah. And also the king can try to run king c1 in some variations. Okay, so rook c8 check, king h7. Now this is the critical moment.
Because then if you do the same stuff with queen d2, then when this queen h5 check comes, then we can go to c1 with the king.
Okay, so let's try to analyze it. But the thing is, like in some variations, queen h3, queen c8 could come.
Yeah, it can be dangerous. So another idea is to protect each other with the like playing rook a8. something like that. After Rook C8, so the queen is still protected, the rook is also protected. Okay, need to calculate.
So Mr. Attila here is trying to make his grandmaster norms. He is already an international master, and so I would ideally want him to solve this position from the initial position without moving the pieces, because to become a grandmaster we have to be able to solve such problems over the board during a game where we are not allowed to move the pieces. So that is why I am not moving the pieces as he gives variation, but for the audience to understand, I'm showing some variations and then going back to the initial position. So for the audience, what I can recommend is you can have a physical chessboard near you, and then you can go till Rook C8, King H7. You can keep it on the board and try to solve from that point if you are not able to visualize the position. But for those of you who want to take it as a challenge and who wants to push themselves a bit hard, I would suggest you to try to solve from this position itself without moving the pieces on the board. So Rook C8, King H7. Now we have to find the best move for white. So we still have the threat of Queen H1, Queen G2, Queen into A2. That is still alive. So we have to do something about it.
So so there are this Queen H3. You said there are Queen H3 queens. If you do move the queen on the second rank, just Queen D2, then it gives a check. On H1, then King F2. Then how will be that happen? So check on H2, then King to E2.
So for the audience, I have typed the moves in the chat window in the comment section. So you can, whenever you feel you're losing the position in your head, you can read the moves and try to reach the position. So whenever you are trying to solve positions, I would strongly urge you not to move pieces on the board and try to solve without moving pieces. And when you do that, sometimes we may lose track of the position, where the pieces are, where the pawns are. We may get easily confused, and whenever that confusion happens, then you just simply have to start from the beginning, go over each move, and when you try to visualize the position, try to move the pieces in the board, in your mental board. So whenever you forget the position, start from the beginning, slowly go through the moves in your head. It will become clearer. So for the audience, I'll just show once what we are analyzing. At this moment, we are trying to find a good move for white. So you have to have this position in your head. Okay.
I still don't see after Queen D2 what's going on. Why it's not good. So Queen D2 in that position we do, then gives a check on H1, then King F2. Queen takes H2 check. We go to E1 with the king. Okay, then maybe he takes the G3 pawn with the check, and then Queen to G4 check we will do to win the rook. Or will he? No, after Queen takes G3, then we can play Queen F2. So we just prevented all the checks, so that's not possible. If he placed Queen to G1 check, or Queen H2 check, then we go back to E2 with the king. Then Queen H5 check. That's kind of like a Perpetual itself that way. That's interesting. That's like kind of like a new Perpetual, which we did not see before.
We still have the Perpetual?
Maybe not. Actually, check. Yeah, no, I was just thinking that's interesting, Perpetual, to give a check on h5, then it goes back to e1 and then check on h1. So it's don't even need that stuff with the queen e2. No.
So if you give play here and now check, and I can very well come here again.
Yeah, but that's a different, because before it was.
No, before also it was possible. Before also it was possible.
Okay, because that was maybe more straightforward than
yeah, that is
the
more.
queen.
Yeah. Instead of trying to win the queen, this makes more sense.
Okay.
So king e2 queen h5 is obviously correct.
Okay, so this is why it's not good. Okay.
So we are trying to find the correct move for white at this point. So Shreyan, that's not the best move for white. So we have to find the only move for white at that point after king h7.
If you play something like Rook A8, I was thinking to
very good.
Keep the queen far away.
We know the threat for black, which is queen h1, queen g2, queen into a2, is going to win the white queen. So with Rook A8, we are defending the queen. Now after queen A8, after Rook A8, what should black do? Is there anything he can try to either give perpetual check or create a mating net?
The queen h1 check is the first which comes in mind, but also maybe something like playing d4 is one idea at least to consider to attack the rook with the bishop and open up even more the position.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe first need to look the check, or queen h1 check, king f2, then if captures maybe h2, let's check the black looks first, queen takes h2 check, then king f1, we try to run away, king e1.
Shubhangi, queen g2 will be met.
Sorry, so queen h1 check, king f2.
Mm-hmm.
And there queen g2 will be made. Queen g2 check, king e1. Queen g1 check. King d2, then queen f2 check. King c3, queen takes d3 check. King b2, then queen d2 check. Oh, so queen d2 check. Wow, that's the king a3. But with king a3, I think we run away.
So after Rook A8, how should black create counterplay? I think queen h1 is only move, right?
Yeah.
And king f2.
King f2.
Now we have to find something by which black can try to put up some fight.
Maybe bishop f3.
But isn't it a bit slow? Maybe I can just win after queen b1 check. Exchange the queens.
Yeah. So that's a shot. Yeah.
Let me show it to the audience. So now let's say if I move the pawn, I will just show the threat and win the queen. So this is the threat. So you cannot. So we have to do something about the queen. And so this way we protect the queen. Now there is no check possible. And if queen d1, then we come king f2, right? If queen d1, king f2. And now if you give a check, I will simply run to the queen side. Now the point is the queen is protected and no more checks. So white should win this. So this is the critical moment. So by elimination, we can say this is more or less forced. Now at this point, black has an interesting attempt to keep playing for a draw or for more. And if bishop f3, we have this check and exchanging the queens. So bishop f3 is not the move. So to the audience, I would say you have to keep this position in your head, and here you have to find something for black where you can still continue your resistance.
One idea is to play d4 to open up for the bishop with the threat of bishop takes a8 to win back a rook, and still the white king will be still open.
No, but for d4, let us say I take ed4 and you want to take bishop into a8, and I can still
but
play
then
queen b1
b1, queen b1, yeah, you just change the queens. Yeah,
so
over.
As long as the queen remains on the h1, queen b1 idea we have to be careful about.
Maybe, yeah, we can.
So after queen h1, king f2, we can do some elimination method. So we have bishop and queen. So when we have such a situation, we should ask ourselves which is easier to eliminate, the bishop moves or the queen moves. So Mr. Attila, in your view, which is easier to eliminate? Which moves?
Probably queen moves.
Elimination in the sense like we can eliminate that something is not working. So let us see the bishop moves
okay,
first.
the bishop, yeah, because there are several bishop moves which makes not much sense, like bishop h7, bishop g6, bishop f5.
King is on h7, so we have to see bishop g6, bishop f5, bishop d3, bishop c2, bishop b1, and see if any of these moves make sense or not. If any of these moves make sense, then we have to analyze those moves. And if these moves do not make sense, then we have to eliminate the bishop moves.
Okay, we can. And the other bishop moves are not because of queen b1 check. So yeah, we can just eliminate the bishop moves then.
Okay, so after queen h1, king f2, we can eliminate the bishop moves. So that means only the queen moves are possible. So now we have to make a list of queen moves. One is queen h2, the other is queen g2, the other is queen f3. So these are the three checks I can see. Is there any other move possible for the queen or not? Only these three moves.
Like queen d1 or queen c1 is possible, but that looks a bit slow.
Yeah, queen d1 looks a bit slow, isn't it? If that's what we need, then we can start with queen d1 check.
Yeah.
King f2, it will be black to play.
Yeah. So then we can start to look the checks. Then
so these three moves, queen h2, queen g2, queen f3. Now out of these three moves, we should try to eliminate some bad moves so we can narrow down our possibilities.
Okay, yeah, those looks quite similar to me actually, those three.
I don't know which is so can we eliminate some moves from this list?
Maybe queen f3, maybe we can eliminate because queen f3, king. Okay, no, that's queen f3 check, king e1.
Yeah.
Then queen h1 you need to go, and then we go
king d2. So these checks only help the white king come out of the cage.
Yeah.
Into the open, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So probably we can eliminate queen f3.
Queen f3 also, yeah.
So now we still have two other moves, queen h2 and queen g2. Now we have to try to eliminate one of the moves from this list. So to the audience, maybe I will again show the moves just in case. So now this is only move. Now this move, and we are seeing queen check here. So we have 1, 2 and 3, and we just saw that this not possible. It just helps the king to get away from the difficulty. So we can eliminate the move queen f3 from the list. So we have these two moves with the queen. So we have to try to eliminate one of the two moves from this list, and whatever is remaining should be the correct move. So this is the position we are trying to analyze, and we have eliminated queen f3. We are trying to analyze queen g2, queen h2, and find which of the move among this give black a fighting chance.
So let's do maybe with queen takes h2. Let's start queen takes h2.
King e1.
King e1. And again we have options.
Now, if queen g3, we go queen f2.
Yeah.
And
so
that stops all the checks.
Stops all the checks.
So you can give queen g2, g1.
G1 or h1.
Yeah. In both the cases, I'll go king d2 and king c3.
Looks like that's not working. Yeah. So that means we can eliminate.
So we can eliminate queen h2 as well.
Yeah.
Now let's try to find, is there any difference with
queen g2.
Queen g2.
Queen g2, king e1. So the difference should be like the queen is closer to, like, has access to f3. And
so queen g2 f1. Also he will go king e1, and the queen g2 is under attack. The only check is queen g1 or h1, king d2. So the critical, so that now queen f3, we give this check here. Now we are threatening to give check and win this rook. So he has to play rook to h1. So now we saw that after queen h1, king f2, all these three moves are not working, right? So we have made the mistake earlier. So we have to retrace our steps and try to find out one move back, did we miss anything? So we have eliminated this, we have eliminated this. So that means this check is still possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he has to come here. So at this point, try to see if we have any interesting idea for black. The moves like queen f3 or queen h1 don't make sense, because if we want queen h1, we could have directly played queen h1 instead of queen d1 and queen h1. So this does not make sense. And if queen f3, it just same as queen h1, king f2, queen f3, we can simply run away from the scene of action. So this is the critical moment where we have to try to find something for black. So let me go back. So let's try to imagine the position with queen d1, king f2. Now we have eliminated queen h1, we have eliminated queen f3. So let's try to find some good move.
The idea is like bishop c2, one idea to block the second rank, so then the queen d2 check will be dangerous.
Yeah, so bishop c2 is black's last attempt to play for a perpetual check. Now we are threatening queen d2 check and give a perpetual. So this is the critical moment. Now we have to try to find the winning move for white.
Wow.
After bishop c2.
Okay, so where we are. So the rook is under attack. What can we give a check? Let's first I will look for checks. It's like rook h8 check. The other is queen takes c2 check. We can eliminate queen takes c2 because she captures, and then our rook is still lost. Rook h8 check, then what if he captures? Then probably makes not much. Then queen a8 checking h7 going back, and we are in the same situation. The checks are not working after bishop c2. Okay, what if he plays queen a1 counterattacking? Maybe queen a. Okay, well then queen d2 check.
So he's going to give queen d2 check. That is the whole point. So we are analyzing in this position. Now we are seeing bishop c2. This is the last chance for black. He is trying to give a perpetual check with queen d2, and then the king will have problems. It will not be able to run to the queen side. So this is the threat we need to guard against. So we have to find the winning move for white after bishop c2. So those who are not able to follow the position, try to read the notation, start from the beginning, go to the position gradually, and you will be able to visualize it in your head. So when my daughter was young, and when she had just learnt how to move the pieces, she was a complete beginner, but she knew all the rules, how pawn promotion, castling, en passant, and so on. So she knew all the rules, but she was an unrated player, had not played any tournaments. So I did a small experiment with her, and I gave a pawn end game, king and pawn ending with one pawn each, and I asked her to solve a position without moving pieces, and she was a complete beginner and had no rating. And with guidance, I tried to make her visualize the position in their head, and then with a lot of help she was able to solve the position. Not only that, she was able to visualize the position in her head. That is the key. If you can see the position in your head, then finding the moves will be much easier. So I would request every one of you to push yourself, strain a bit more, and try to visualize the position in your head. So what is the secret of working hard? There is no secret. It's just once you decide something has to be done, you just have to get it done. And I would say that is called a discipline. Discipline is once you know something has to be done, you just get it done. So for example, if the school starts at 8 a.m., we should be there at before that, isn't it? There's no two ways about it. Somehow you get it done. So once you decide I have to work hard to improve in my chess, you have to find the right time and get it done.
So to make some other candidate moves, so probably I cannot really avoid queen d2. Rook d3 would be just for at least temporarily avoid the queen d2 check, but then you can just
you can just take queen d3, right?
Yeah, take it, and then still again.
I'm still having threat of queen d2.
So probably from that point I was thinking maybe I cannot avoid that, but maybe I should avoid the consequences. What other way to avoid queen d2? I cannot attack the square anyway. Queen takes c2 is not working, so I cannot sacrifice. So then I was thinking maybe to control like the first trend, like queen a1, so there will be maybe no perpetual or not. And sacrificing the rook for the defense, and then
yeah, so we have a rook and an exchange up. Normally what happens is our psychology, we try to retain the extra material and at the same time solve the problem we are facing. But the best approach will be to, whenever we have excess material and our king is in trouble, the first approach should be to give up the extra material and try to take care of the king. But for most of us, it is quite difficult giving up the extra material. Now, this is something we have to learn to do in our analysis. So, so I have one audience saying, I try to solve position, but when I try to see chess, I feel sleepy. So he was trying to solve his studies and he was feeling sleepy. Now, this is quite normal. You don't have to be ashamed about it, or you don't have to feel guilty about it. I remember, I don't want to name the player. He's a grandmaster now. When in our first session when we were working, this must be probably around 2006 or so, I was working with one of a player, one of my student, and in our first session he was like a 2200 player, and he was a young boy, and in our first session he fell asleep during the session and then for 1 hour he was sleeping, and after that he woke up, and then I asked him like, what happened? So is the class so boring that you started sleeping after after some time? And he said, no, I slept very late yesterday and last night, and I was very tired. So I just asked him like, from going forward, try to sleep more and come fresh for the class. And eventually he became an international master in 6 months, and subsequently he became a GM as well. The point is, and one other example I would say is like one player, he won World Junior Championship, and immediately after he won the World Junior Championship, World Under 20, so he was already a grandmaster with around 2580 or so. His rating was something around that. And after 10 days, 10 days after winning the World Juniors, we were having a session, and the first day he asked the one important question. He said like, I have a major problem. And I asked, what is that? He said, it's very boring to see chess on my own. So if I try to see, I want to improve, I want to get better, but if I try to see chess on my own, it becomes boring very soon. How do I handle? So the point I'm trying to make is, for an international master, he was feeling sleepy when he was seeing chess, and for a grandmaster, he was getting bored when he was seeing chess. So why I gave this two example is simply because just to show that no, it's not Adiban. It's not Adiban. So the point I'm trying to make is, instead of trying to guess the personality, that is not the point. The point is, even strong players, they get bored when they try to see chess for long, and they sometimes feel sleepy when they are seeing chess, and this is perfectly normal. So what we should do, if you are feeling sleepy, then probably you deserve to sleep. So maybe you just have to close the computer and the chessboard, sleep for some time, and then when you are fresh, you should start seeing. Probably the body is complaining that your sleep is not sufficient. And if it is boring, then probably try to ask yourself why you are actually trying to prepare, the motivation part. Why are we seeing chess? Why are we trying to spend time with chess? So if the motivation is right, then we won't feel as disturbed. So you should be interested in learning. That is very important. So if learning in chess makes you happy, you will not get bored that easily. Okay, so after bishop c2, we have to try to find a good move.
So queen a1, I was thinking queen a1.
Yeah, queen a1. Okay, queen d2 check.
So then he moves the king to maybe
king g1, let's say.
King g1, yeah. There are no more checks, but
no more checks. So probably I can take bishop b3.
Bishop b3. And now the e3 is hanging.
Queen into e3 is a threat.
Just let me check. I can queen d4. I can protect. I know that's enough. Protecting queen d4 gives a check or no. Where is the king? So yeah, queen. He can queen e1 check maybe. But then king g2, queen e2 check. Yeah, that's perpetual.
Yeah.
The perpetual. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so that looks. Not let this after queen did with a perpetual. There's something better which can do.
So Sainthan, is any of the stream private? I don't remember making any stream private. So why is that comment? So it's not queen a1. So like I said, we should be willing to give back the extra material. And when queen d2 check comes, what would we need to get out of perpetual? When queen d2 check comes, because that looks like inevitable, isn't it?
Yeah, some space, I guess, or something. Maybe power g4 just for a random move. Just thinking to maybe to be able to go out to, but it looks like it still is just not a safe area for our king. Or move something in between the. Maybe we can play like queen a6. Is it possible? Queen a6, so we can go back to e2 with the queen.
Yeah, queen a6, queen d2 check, queen e2, and then stops all the checks. So basically, this is the solution. Now we can simply move to the next position, but in that process what will happen is like we will not be learning some important lessons. So what should happen is like I said, the main reason why we see chess is, one, it makes us happy, we are passionate about chess, and the other reason should be that in a way, when I see chess, it should improve my strength. It should give more clarity on how I should be thinking and what changes I should be making in my thinking process, so that when I see chess, along with getting the happiness out of seeing chess, I'm also making some progress in my chess strength. So that is very important. Now for that, it means we have to keep learning. When we stop learning, we stop improving. So what can we learn from this position? So the first thing is, we did not see the queen a6 line in probably like 1 or 2 minutes, right? It took us a lot of time to find this whole variation. So first thing is, we should be ready to invest more time in our preparation. So this is the first requirement. And the second is, if we just stare at the board for long time, and if we try to see 1 or 2 ideas and try to make those 1 or 2 ideas work without being flexible, then over a period of time we will simply be wasting too much time without much to show for the time we have invested, and the amount of analysis we made, it won't make much sense. So it is very important that we don't get stuck at any particular moment, and we try to try different ideas. If some idea does not work, then we can check it 1 or 2 times more. If it is still not working, then it's important we go to other ideas. We try other ideas in our analysis. So this constantly moving, not getting stuck at one point, and always trying to come up with new resources. If something is not working, instead of getting stuck at that point, we try some other things. So how I tell my students is, imagine a monkey climbing a tree, or a human climbing let's say a coconut tree. Now the human climbing a coconut tree, it will be like a straight line, right? You just try to climb the tree and reach the top. But if you see a monkey how it climbs a tree, it will jump from one tree to the other, one branch to the other. So it doesn't go up in a straight way. It is flexible. Whatever opportunity comes along the way, it will grab it. So in our analysis also, we should be something like that monkey, not just go in one straight line. We should be ready to look at alternatives. Okay, this looks like the move. You go in that direction. When you realize it is not working, then you come back and try some other path. If it's not working, come back and try some other path, and so on. So you should be very flexible in your thinking process. So one thing is, like I said, we should be ready to invest more time in the analytical process. And Mr. Attila, how does it feel after you found the whole variation ending with Queen A6?
It's kind of like a release after
a big relief, right?
yeah,
Finally,
yeah,
it comes to an end. All my effort, but it also makes you happy, right?
yeah,
Struggled, and finally you hit upon the right idea. So
yeah.
and this is what is the right way to prepare, in my view, where the problem we face is slightly above our current skill levels. So we have to somehow bring some extra strength from inside, and then get the answer because of that extra effort, and then that extra effort becomes our new normal. So this is how we have to build our capacity. So let me show to the audience the analysis. So Rook A2, Queen A2, Queen F3. Now initially we saw Queen B2, but here the problem is I give this check, and then we saw one variation where the king tries to run, but unfortunately it ends in a checkmate. And after this, so if here we have this mate, and if you try to run this way, bishop f3 check, and still it's a mate, queen e2 mate. So queen b2 is not working. So after queen f3 we try to make queen d2 work, but here also we saw that okay, so but probably it makes sense to take this pawn, king e1, and now queen h1 check is easier, king e2, and then queen h5 check. So this is a perpetual check. So this queen d2 is also not working. So queen d2 not working, queen b2 not working. So now it is very important that we saw queen b2 with lot of hope and suddenly realize it is not working. Then instead of getting upset or feeling helpless, we simply try another idea, queen d2. And after queen d2 also we realize after struggle that we hit upon this idea. This is the critical idea which lets black escape with a perpetual check. So we realize queen d2 is also not working. And then what happens is, psychologically, if we are white, we may conclude that after rook a2 it is a perpetual check. But instead what the strong players do, they say, okay, I tried queen b2, not working, I tried queen d2, not working, is there anything else I can try? And then we hit upon this rook c8, king h7, and we are threatening. So let's say if b5 we have this threat, and then he loses the queen. So we know the threat, the queen is under attack. So either we move the queen or defend the queen, and we cannot move the queen because we have to worry about this checkmate as well. So for example, if you come here, then queen check and queen f3. So problem. So we realize that rook a8 is the only move which defends the queen, and we try to make queen h1 check, but even here the queen is simply escaping from the checks. So we try to approach from this side, not working. So we try to approach from the other side, and after king f2, one last option, one last trick where we try to take perpetual check with queen d2. and we try to make queen a1, these kind of moves work, but here the problem is queen a1 here, and when he move the king, now there is no more check, so I take this rook, and now I'm threatening queen into pawn. So the only way to defend is with the queen. So let's say he tries here, but in this case there is a perpetual check and it's a draw, right? So we see, we conclude that queen a1 is also not working. And finally Mr. Attila hit upon the correct idea, which is when he gives the check, we need the help of other pieces. So only the queen can come and white wins. So even if you win this rook after exchanging the queens, exchange up, and this extra pawn should eventually win for white. So we can conclude that rook a2 on the first move is a very interesting attempt by black, but against the correct play by white, it should eventually lose as well. So now why did we solve this puzzle? What did we gain? Now we learn like how easy or difficult it is for us to analyze positions without moving pieces, and also there are so many variations, possibilities we had to consider. But in my view, this is not very difficult. This should not be very difficult for a player around 2000 or more. With some extra effort, we should be able to analyze these positions. And I strongly feel like any player above 1800, we should be able to analyze these kind of positions relatively easily. But if it is not that case, then it means we have not been training our calculation skills as much as we should have done. So you have to take this seriously and start working on your calculation more. Okay, so we have Judson Prince. Do you agree with this? Brave plus not correct play is failure. Not brave correct play is draw, and brave correct play mostly winning. Okay, so one is the accuracy, the other is the psychology, and both chess psychology and the quality of the moves we play, obviously they both have to be good. It is like solving a complicated max problem and finally checking the solution is correct. Okay, fine. So can we go to the next position, Mr. Attila?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Okay, now let me load the next position. Okay, so it is black to play. Black to play.
So
what's the most obvious move here?
Knight b4.
Yeah, knight b4 is most obvious.
Well, yeah, but I of course like the bishop can also.
Yeah, so currently the pieces are equal. 3 minor pieces, 6 pawns each. The bishop is under attack. So we can move the bishop. That is always possible. You can simply move the bishop back. But we are trying to see if we can sacrifice the bishop and launch an attack against the white king on the queen side. So knight b4 comes to our mind, and for knight b4, let's try to make a list of moves for white. So what are the possibilities for white after knight b4?
Yeah, actually, we cannot take the bishop. That's one possibility. It looks very dangerous.
But we still have to consider. It should be in our list. It should be in our list. So there are two ways to do this. Like I said in the previous position also, when we are considering knight b4, you can directly start analyzing fg4 and then continue the variation. And then if white is winning after that, then we check once more, and then we realize after knight b4, fg4, white is winning. But if white is losing, for example, after knight b4, fg4, white is losing, then we should realize maybe my fg4 was not the best move, and we should try to make a list and come up with alternatives. So at some point we have to make a list.
Yeah, so like A3 also, it should be on the list, I think, after knight before A3 to
Yeah, so
stop.
let's so as of now we have two moves: knight b4, fg4, and knight b4, a3. So now we have two moves. Now what we should do, we should analyze both these moves. And now let us say for white, if both these moves are losing, then again we should search for more candidate moves. So the candidate moves we don't have to do only once in our analysis. We can start one variation without making any list. You can directly go into enter into a variation, and if it is not working in our favor, then we can start making list. And now when we make list, analyze all the moves in the list, and still it is not working, then we can again make a list. Nothing wrong. So let us analyze fg4 first, because white is winning a piece, and let's try to understand what the danger actually is.
So let's take G4, then black may capture on A2 with the check. Queen takes A2 check, king C1. And there we need to look how to go forward. Because, yeah, there's no queen A1 check because the knight captures. Yeah, rook takes C2, that's what's the nice idea. So rook takes C2 check, because if the knight, no, it's not working. It's working. No, I was just hallucinating something. But we need to consider also like rook takes C2 check. This for a moment.
So we are trying to analyze knight b4, fg4. Knight b4, fg4, and see what black has.
Actually, maybe, yeah, other candidates knight e4 move there. So it's queen takes a2 also, because that's a very, very forcing move, knight e4 attacking the queen. That should be also on the list.
So the point is, like, whenever one side's attack is slowing down or seems not to be powerful enough, then it would most likely mean that maybe we are attacking with less units. So we should try to include more units in the attack and see if it works in that case.
Yeah, like knight e4 is adding a new unit.
Yeah, knight e4 is interesting. Is there anything else possible?
Like rook takes e3 also, one idea to just removing the queen a little bit and being also very forcing. Another way to get a new piece.
So many of you are suggesting knight e4, but knight e4 is a blunder. Why?
So after f take g4, knight e4 is a blunder.
No, not there. After queen a2, king c1.
Okay, there. Because he can just take the knight, I guess.
Yeah, take queen to b4. Yeah.
Before, yeah. I was thinking first, maybe before capturing the a2, maybe that knight e4. First, get the knight, but the knight is still protected on b4. Because there the queen has like two possible moves. Like, because c1 he cannot go because that's a checkmate of queen takes a2, so that's whereas needed. So you can go to e1 or e2.
So Rishabh Manglani, you play rapid games, you analyze some things and realize it doesn't work, get into time pressure and make mistakes. Okay, rapid, most likely every player is likely to get into shortage of time because the time they have given is already very less. So we have to be mentally prepared that at some point we will be running short of time and mistakes are possible. So if you are mentally ready for it, and if you can keep your nerves calm, then even when you are in a time pressure, you will not be making big mistakes, at least. So that you can definitely avoid if you are attentive and not letting your nerves get the better of you. So remaining calm even in time pressure, it's necessary. That can help in reducing the number of mistakes we make. Okay, so let's just see what we have been analyzing. Now, if we try to bring knight e4 at this point, unfortunately the knight is hanging. So we can try to bring the knight directly, and this is quite good. Now if he moves, we reach this position. Now here we have many ways to continue the attack. You can just try to double the rooks. This also should be good enough, but maybe this makes more sense. Just pushing the a pawn forward, and probably it's better to do it here also. This is also good enough.
This first rook, so yeah, the knight cannot protect the a1 square.
Yeah, so this is quite a strong attack, because after here, he has this option, right? We give him this option. So if you don't want to give, I think after this also black should be winning, but if we want to avoid this option, it makes sense to push first immediately, because now the queen cannot come to b5, right? And now you can go knight e4, queen e2, and then push a4, and black should be winning. So we can conclude that knight b4, fg4 is very risky, probably losing for black. So in that sense, let's try to analyze a3. And Aditya Mittal, sometime back I saw that he mentioned knight b4, a3, knight takes c2, knight takes c2, queen takes b3, and that is quite good. Now Mr. Attila, after queen takes b3, what should white be playing?
There is
so knight b4, a3, and now knight c2, queen b3.
The g4 is still hanging.
Yes, so he can take fg4, and the drawback of fg4 is
okay, then you get knight e2, knight c3.
Knight e4 is coming. Okay, so it's also important that we don't think in bunches of moves. This is another mistake many players make. We try to think like white can do ABC at the same time. No, after every white move, black has to play, and we can always hinder ideas. So a3, knight c2, queen b3, fg4, knight e4. Now we have to find correct move for white.
After knight e4.
Yeah, we have to find a good move for white.
Okay, there's a good move. Wow. So looks very dangerous. Knight c3 is threatening.
The main thing in such positions is we should not panic. We should not let our nerves get the better of us. So for the audience, I'll just show the position what we are talking about. Now we are attacking. So we are seeing this, and now queen into is losing, so he has to take with the knight. Now we are analyzing this position, and here bishop f5 is coming, going to join. So here black has extra pawn and also an attack. So only way white can justify allowing all this is to say, okay, you have an attack, but I have an extra piece. Otherwise black has an attack plus an extra pawn, and the next piece is going to jump. So this has to be taken. And in attack, I've already mentioned in many of my streams that we have to pay attention to drawback of the opponent's previous move. So when the pawn was here, it was controlling these two squares, but now that the pawn has gone to e4, g4, the e4 square has lost its control. So we have to play this move, queen attack, and wherever the queen moves, knight c3 is coming. Now when we are white looking at this position, it is very easy to panic and then give up hope, and as a result we can start making mistakes. But what I'm trying to tell is, when opponent is attacking, obviously it will be risky for us, but panicking is not the solution. We have to remain calm, accept that we have a difficult position, we have a tough position in front of us. We should try to give our best and handle it in the best possible way we can. And this kind of not giving up in tough situations is also a very important quality the strong players have. Because every time we are in a tough situation, if you're going to panic and make mistakes, then it means our nerves are quite weak. And to be a strong player, we should have strong nerves as well. So for knight e4, how can white put up resistance?
The knight is sitting to capture the queen with a check, actually. That's the bigger issue. So, because if we try to counterattack something, then he just captures the check. So that's no way. Like knight d4 or knight a1, I was thinking, but just captures with a check, and then after just looks too much. So probably we should move the queen. Because what else we can do?
So Aditya Mittal, is this the same Aditya Mittal I know? Aditya, is that you? Or is this some other Aditya Mittal? Mumbai.
So it was an idea to. There's also the other problem after knight c3. We cannot take with the. Maybe we can go to c1 with from that check. So maybe I was first only looking for king a1 and then queen a2 checkmate, but we will be able to move to c1 maybe with the king after knight c3 check. And if we can do that, then so we should consider the queen moves. We have to move the queen.
Okay, Aditya. Yeah, so for knight e4, you have to play a move. Wherever you move the queen, knight c3 is going to come.
Yeah, I think first queen d3 maybe.
Okay, queen d3.
Queen
now,
d2.
For queen d3, what are the possible moves for black?
So, possible moves. Can also play something like rook c3 actually.
Okay, rook c3 is one possibility. We should not start analyzing rook c3 immediately. We should also try to make a list. So
knight c3 also.
Knight c3. So we have two moves, knight c3 and rook c3. Now, which is more forcing, or which looks more easy to analyze, or which is more dangerous? We should try to analyze them first. Hello.
Knight c3 because it's dangerous for the king. That's why I was thinking for that.
So let's analyze knight c3. Now we have two moves, king a1 and king c1, and king a1 is a blunder because of
checkmate.
Queen a2 checkmate. So we have to play king c1, and the idea of king c1 is we are going to take pawn into c3. So what can black do after knight c3? King c1. Yeah, Rishabh, what I would suggest is like you should not try to go too deep in analysis, spending a lot of time in a rapid game. In standard time control, maybe you can do that, but in a rapid game, you should not be wasting too much time on one position. And then if you do that, then you will face the same problem which you have been facing all along. So be more intuitive in shorter time controls.
So there is one way, like knight a2 check to try to.
Okay, knight a2 check. Now white has two options, king b1 or king d2. King d2 is a blunder because of. Okay, Sayanthan, I would suggest you to look at the position, try to analyze. I've already read your comment.
So just nice because rook takes c2, queen takes c2, queen takes a3 checkmate.
Yeah, rook c2, queen c2, queen e3, checkmate. So we have to go back king b1.
And then he can make a perpetual if he wants.
Yeah, so there is nothing more than perpetual check. So let me show it to the audience. So knight b4, we are analyzing a3, and then knight c2, knight c2, and now we are seeing queen to d3. We have to keep the knight under support. So we were seeing knight check. Now if here it's a mate, so eliminated. Now we have two moves, and if he tries to run, that's not working unfortunately because of this mate. So for check he has to come here. Now the queen is under attack, so this is only ending in a draw. So now at this point we made a list, knight c3 and rook c3. So now we have to analyze rook c3, this position. Now this is the position we have to analyze. I will go back to the initial position. So after rook c3, what is happening, we have to find out.
Rook c3. Yeah, the c2 need to be kept defended, so probably queen e2 is the only move. To protect the c2. Or I don't know, sacrificing the queen. Yeah, that's an idea actually. I like the idea because we already captured a lot of things.
So what is your solution for queen d3, rook c3?
Just for a moment, I was thinking we were sacrificing the queen, but maybe that's just too much. But where we are, so knight b4, a3, knight takes c2, knight takes c2, queen takes d3, f takes g4, knight e4, queen d3, rook c3. Okay, we cannot take. That because knight takes back, so I was thinking queen e2 to keep protecting the c2 knight. But also maybe we can figure some kind of counter moves with the knight, counterattacking his queen.
So after rook c3, what you're saying, Mr. Attila?
My first was queen e2, my first idea, queen
okay,
e2.
Queen e2.
Protecting the knight.
Aditya, it doesn't change anything. He will take with the queen and it's still a perpetual. So Aditya Mittal, he will rook e3, queen e3, knight a2, king b1. It's still a perpetual. Because your queen b3 is hanging, you cannot take rook c2. And if you take queen into c2, queen into king into a2 is coming. So I'll just show it to the audience. At this point, he was suggesting instead of knight a2, why not rook e3, but it doesn't change anything. So if queen e3, knight e3, if rook c2, even this mate.
Yep.
And if you take with the queen, this is coming. So it doesn't work. So at this point, we are seeing queen e2, which is correct. But now there is no knight c3 check because the rook is on c3. So after queen e2, what should be our immediate thought when the queen goes to e2? We should try to say, oh my god, if I can get knight c3, it will be so nice to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the rook is on c3, so we should try to see like where the knight rook can move. So knight c3 can happen.
Yeah, like maybe we should consider rook takes e3 or rook takes c2. Or but that's not good. If rook takes c2, then queen takes c2, then just covers the c3 square still.
Yeah.
If rook takes e3, then queen takes e3, and then it's again covered. versa.
Rook C2 is not good. Queen into C2, knight C3, queen into C3. Okay, so if Rook E3, what happens?
Queen takes E3. Queen takes, because the C2 knight is protecting our queen.
So Rook E3, Queen E3 is simply winning.
Yeah.
Because the knight E4 is blocking Rook E8. So Rook C3 is not working. Sorry, Rook E3 is not working. Rook C2 is not working. So what other rook moves we can consider?
Other rook is yes. Rook D3, we just taking the rook and the queen, so that's also not good. Rook goes back to somewhere with the C5.
Yeah, but where it makes more sense? Instead of going to some XYZ square, where would it make more sense? Somewhere active, right? So maybe Rook C4.
Maybe Rook C4, yeah.
Okay, instead of going all the way back to C8. And now we are threatening knight C3 check again. So what should white do here? So I'll show it to the audience. Now we were discussing this. And now Rook C4 threatening here. So this is the position we are analyzing. We are trying to find a move for white.
So, yeah, I was thinking that maybe Rook D3 to cover the C3 square, and if knight C3, then they're sacrificing the rook.
So at this point, we played Queen D3, right? And now the rook is on C8. And after Rook C3, Queen E2, Rook C4, we can again play Queen D3. But the difference is earlier the rook was on C8, now the rook is on C4. And does it benefit black or not? We have to find out. And the other move is Rook D3. So these are the two moves we have to analyze, Rook D3 and Queen D3. Now let's analyze Queen D3 first. Queen D3 is not good because of
so this. So knight b4, a3, knight takes c2, knight takes c2, queen takes d3, pawn takes g4, knight e4, queen d3, rook c3, queen e2, rook c4. But if I go back again to d3, that's not good because of
the black queen is hanging, so black doesn't have much option. And the idea of Rook C4 was to get
knight C3.
So Queen D3, we have to see knight C3. And again, King A1, Queen A2 is made. So he has to go back King C1. So knight C3, King C1. Now, earlier in this position, we had the rook on C8. But now we have the rook on C4. How can black benefit from this? Take advantage of this.
We can double the rooks.
We can double the rooks. So what is happening there after we double the rooks? So what is the assessment?
So
So let us say I play Rook D2 to defend the C2. There's more pressure on my C2. So let us say after Rook E8 I play Rook D2.
So black has a knight on C3
and Queen B3.
The rooks are on C4, C8.
C4, C8. And he has Rook D2, Queen D3, Knight C2, King C1.
Okay, what can you do there? Looking for the checks first.
We have a one move in, so to say, after rook d2.
Winning in one move?
Yeah.
Okay. One idea is like queen a2.
Yeah, queen a2. So let me show the analysis for the audience. Now we were seeing there are two moves possible, rook d3 and queen d3. If queen d3, we give a check, and now we calmly bring the next piece into the attack. So these are all very important moves. When we are attacking, when you don't have a force to win, try to bring new units into the attack, and there is tremendous pressure here on c2. And if he tries to do something like this, we go here and a mating attack, and in this case mate. So this is the problem, and black should be winning this. So at this moment we have to analyze rook d3 instead of queen d3. So rook d3, now what happens?
Yeah, if captures, or I mean, if he plays knight c3, we sacrifice it. Look for the right, and if there's that looks pretty good. If I'm right, not sure if I'm right.
So after rook d3, what should black play?
So yeah, one idea is knight c3 check, just
knight c3 check, and if the king moves knight into e2, the queen is lost.
So we need to take, sacrifice the
rook.
So rook takes c3, then rook takes c3.
Yeah, rook c3, rook c3. Now, so we were seeing this position, and now knight c3. Now if king a1, queen a2 is mate, and here knight e2 is check, we take the queen with check, otherwise rook b3. So knight c3, his only move is rook c3, and after rook c3, rook c3. So this is the position we are seeing, and we have to go back, and after rook c3 we have to find the correct move for white. Yeah, hello Bhavi Puya, thanks for the subscription.
Actually, there is a threat for, so black is threatening to take the knight with queen takes c2 check, queen takes rook takes this, and then taking the bishop on e3, and then he has like an extra pawn.
You'll have an extra pawn and an attack.
Winning that game probably.
So how should black handle this threat after rook c3?
Rook c3, maybe. What about rook c1? Looks very calm.
Rook c1, but the problem with rook c1, it's very passive.
Yeah, it's passive.
And what can black do?
The idea was to counter in the back rank, so make some back rank.
Yeah, so black also has back rank problems, like you rightly identified, and you're trying to take advantage of it by playing rook c1. But after rook c1, black is winning. Find the winning move. And for black, he just has to bring more units into the attack. Which new unit he can introduce?
d4.
Yeah. So for rook c1, d4, it's over.
Oh, okay. What about rook? What else?
So rook c1 is eliminated. We have to consider other rook moves.
He has that big threat of taking on c2 and taking the e3 bishop also.
No, but even in that case, if it is equal piece, then black should be okay. White should be fine. So where should the rook move? That is the key after rook c3.
Like rook e1 is one idea. First idea was to just protect the
rook e1, I can play Rook E3 as well. Rook C3, Knight E3 and D4.
Yeah, the D4 stuff again. That's not working. But then by elimination, then what, like?
Yeah, so we eliminate Rook C1,
E1.
we eliminate Rook E1. So what other move makes sense with the Rook?
Which comes closer to the action is Rook D1.
Rook D1. Rook H1 or G1 or F1 doesn't really make any sense. So Rook D1. Now I cannot play D4. You can just simply take. And what if I take on E3? After Rook D1, can I play Rook E3?
Capture back.
And then Rook E3. I don't have D4. So Rook C E3,
then,
Knight into E3, Rook E8 into E3.
Then Rook takes D5.
Rook takes D5. And if Rook E2, Rook D8 is checkmate. And if Queen into D5,
then Queen takes E3.
Queen takes E3. So that is the analysis.
But he can, okay. But he can do instead like Queen takes C2.
So we are analyzing this position. And now we first saw this, but this is happening. And if this I can take, and I'll be an exchange up, and I should win. So if Rook E1, this is also possible. Now I can try.
The bishop can take, no? That's actually, it's just
I can try something like this, but I don't know, maybe white can survive this, but it is black who is playing for a win for sure.
Yeah.
So you can try this. And now what did you say, Mr. Attila, after Rook D1?
Yeah, here was how was your line? So black was playing
so
no, in the other line I was looking for a moment for some counter move in the Rook C line.
Yeah, so he's not getting this D4, so he can try this, but now we have this shot. Now if he takes the queen, it's a backrank mate, and if he takes, then we take again backrank mate. So finally it is equal pieces and equal pawns, and white should be able to hold this position to a draw comfortably.
But he can take on C2, or that's just the Rook can give him also.
Sorry?
No, I was thinking for black after Rook D1 play Queen takes C2, but that just goes to another endgame.
At this point.
Equal number of pawns, yeah, probably, yeah.
And again, 5 versus 5. And because of the back rank,
maybe the white is better here.
It should at least not be worse, I guess.
Yeah.
So after knight b4, it looks like black's attack is terrific, and it is very easy to panic, isn't it, when knight b4 comes. But if we can keep the nerves calm, then we can survive the attack. Yeah,
like knight c1 is the other option. I think I looked in the beginning.
Knight c1?
Yeah, knight c1 to protect a2 pawn.
At this point?
Yeah. Probably this is what I would immediately play if I need to play quickly. So I think it protects everything. Bishop, maybe there is something like bishop f5.
Yeah, so that is why. It's probably happening now.
Yeah, and then it's,
so probably you have to do this. Now if bishop c2, you have queen c2.
Yeah.
Right, so I'll come here. And the king is still coming under terrific attack.
Yeah.
So one possible line is you can come here. I take with the knight. This is under attack. So if you do this, I can come here. And if you come here,
Oh,
so this is too risky.
yeah.
So black pieces are combining well.
Wow, good.
So the point is we have to play a3 and handle the problems. Now the thing is, one thing I keep visit the comment section, how to think deep in short time. Does it come with practice? So one thing probably I should make it very clear to everyone. There are two different things. One, how we train at home. This is one aspect. The other aspect, how do we play during a tournament game? And in a tournament game, we have three different possibilities. One is we are playing a standard time control where we both have enough time to think for long, and the other is we are playing a rapid tournament or we are playing a blitz tournament. So these are the three possibilities as far as tournament is concerned. And the other issue is how do we prepare at home. So whatever I am teaching here, this is all about home preparation. This is nothing to do with how you play in a tournament game. So when you are practicing at home, you should try to practice as close to what we are trying to do here. Trying to strain ourselves more, try to put more effort and put ourselves in very difficult situations and teach ourselves to handle difficult situations. So basically the point is the training we do at home should be very difficult or at least slightly difficult than our current level. If it is too difficult than our current level, then we cannot handle it. So if our current level is this, our training should be something like this, so that when we handle this level of positions, our strength goes up. Then again difficulty, strength goes up, difficulty. So this way we try to improve our strength. So the training part, we don't worry about if I have less time, what do I do? All these questions don't arise. So if you don't have time to prepare, then there's no point in having any discussion, isn't it? So during the training, you have to spend as much time as you want in analyzing positions. Teach yourself to handle difficult positions, because when you are analyzing at home, there is no time trouble. There is no I'm losing rating, my opponent is higher rated, my opponent is lower rated. All this extra issues are not there. You just have an interesting position in front of you and you can learn by analyzing that position and learn. So what we are doing is only training. This is how we should train. Now when you train very hard, your brain will get used to thinking deeply. If we in home preparation also, if we just do some casual analysis and say, oh, this looks night before looks interesting, so this kind of analysis we do, it's not even analysis, it's simply some guesswork, like someone tossed a coin and you have to guess whether it is head or tails. So the home preparation should not be casual. Strain yourself more, and when you strain yourself more with when there are no other considerations like rating or time, then you teach your brain that I am training with difficult positions and I'm learning to handle difficult positions, and that will give you a lot of confidence and it will also improve your capabilities. And when you go and play a tournament, if it is a blitz tournament, can you analyze all these variations in a blitz tournament? No, you just play night before, press the clock. And when he plays a3, you have to decide. Knight is also hanging, bishop is also hanging. Just take knight c2, press the clock. So you just go move to move with less calculation, because you don't have time to go deep. So quickly take decisions. You have to trust your instincts. But for someone who has been training the way we have been training, their intuition will be many times better than someone who has not trained like this. That's the whole point. Even when you take quick decisions, it will make more sense. And when you play a rapid tournament, like let's say if it's a 15-minute game, then first 10 minutes maybe you can go slow, Once you hit the last 2 or 3 minutes, then again you should play like a blitz game. And as far as standard time control is there, you will have enough time to analyze little deeper in some complex positions, not at all moments, but a few critical moments at least. You will have sufficient time to analyze deeper. So whatever I am teaching, it is mainly how you train at home and build capabilities, so that when you play in a tournament game, you will feel more capable and confident to handle the problems you face. So if you ask, like, if I don't have time, how can I see all these things? It's an incorrect question.
Yes.
So if you have less time, you just do what you can. That's it. It is something like, let me put it another way. Suppose someone is very thin, okay, very thin, very lean. So he wants to put on weight. So I tell him, like, maybe you should eat this much food. And then normally he eats this much. Now I'm saying you have to eat this much. So now he is asking, but what if I have only this much food? What you have to do? You have to eat this food because that is all you have, right? So whatever situation we are facing, whatever best you can do, you simply do. In training, push yourself more. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So I think we saw two interesting positions, and then both the positions, the problems we faced, it was complex, but if we strain ourselves a little bit more than we usually do, we see that we are able to handle these complexities in at least in a better way. Maybe most of you who were watching this stream probably did not get all these moves right, which is fine. But if you try doing the positions which are slightly above your current level, then so in this position I am giving, it's mainly for Mr. Attila's current level. So I have to give a position accordingly, and all the audience will not have the same strength as Mr. Attila. So some of you or many of you might find this position too complex, but for Mr. Attila, I hope it was just above his current strength. So he had to like jump a little bit to pluck the fruit, if you understand what I'm saying, right? And in that jumping process, that is the extra effort we are talking about. Yeah, so now it's almost 4:30, so maybe we can take some questions. So if you, the audience, if you have any questions to Mr. Attila, maybe you can ask. Like, he has been trying to become a grandmaster, and you're also planning to play in a closed tournament in a few weeks from now, isn't it, Mr. Attila?
In 2 weeks, yeah, it will start in 2 weeks, the tournament in Budapest, Hungary, the first Saturday Grandmaster tournament.
Yeah. So how is your preparation going on for the tournament?
Actually, I hope to intensify the preparation in the last 2 weeks. Hopefully, I was a little bit ill in this week, but I'm doing the physical preparation. I do every day. Also, I do calculation exercises. I am finalizing some of the openings which I plan to play. Now I have the list of players who will play, and I wanted to ask you about that. If it's what do you suggest how to work with? Because I know already who will play the tournament like 2 weeks before. When should I prepare against them, or how should I prepare against the players?
Yeah, so now we have the list of the players. Since it's a closed tournament, we already know who our opponents are, but we still don't know the exact color. Probably, I guess that will happen probably a day before the tournament starts, or probably on the same day, or just same probably day. One day before we will know the exact color. So what I would suggest is, like, now let's say it's a 9-round tournament, right? 10 players, 9 rounds. Yeah, all play all. So what I would suggest is, like, maybe you can create an Excel sheet, or you can have a book. So when I was young, back then we did not have computers. So when I was selected to play in the National Senior Championship, there were 24 players, I think, and 23 rounds, all play all. So it was a very big tournament. So 23 rounds or even 25 rounds. I'm not sure. I think 25 rounds or 24 rounds. So let's say 24 game tournament. So what I did, I started my preparation like 2 months in advance. So I took a book. I wrote all the 24 players' names in a separate page. So on one page, I divided it into two parts. One, if my opponent is black, and the other is if my opponent is white. So what I do, let's say 26 players, A to Z. So I put A in one page one, and so I search for player A, get all his white games, and then let us say if he's an E4 player. Now I know what I am planning to play against E4. So I will see, okay, I am playing, let us say, French, for example. So then I will try to find his games against the French defense and see what setups he plays against the French. So I will know what setups he is playing. I will write down those things under where I am black. So if he is white, he is going to play E4. I'm going to play French, and he can play A, B, or C setup against the French. I will write this down. And it is also possible that the same player, apart from E4, he may also be playing D4. So then against D4, I will know what options I have. So let us say I have two options. I can play Nimzo Indian and Kings Indian. So I will find out what is he playing against Nimzo Indian and what setup he is playing against Kings Indian. So I will write that as well. And then I will reverse the color. Now if I am white and I am playing with X, so now let's say I am an E4 player. So against E4, my opponent X plays A, B, C, three different openings. Then I will try to find out, is there any pattern how he chooses which opening to play against E4. So sometimes it could be that against lower rated players he is playing a particular opening. Against higher rated player he prefers a different opening. So then we can ask ourselves, okay, where I will fall, in the higher rated category or the lower rated category, and what is he likely to play against me. So accordingly I will prioritize, but I will write all the three openings. So against E4 he plays A, B, C, and which is most likely to come, I will write it at the top, second most likely, third most likely. So now I have written what are the possible openings that can happen against player X if I am white, if I am black. Similarly I will do for all the players in the tournament. So in your case you have to do this for all the 9 players. If you are white, if you are black, what are the openings likely against every particular opponent. So now once you have this list, so when you are making the list itself, some things will become very clearer, which is like most of your opponents, let's say they are E4 players. So then you will know that whenever you are black, E4 is more likely to come. So already some priorities will start establishing. So if most of your opponents are D4 players, then you can realize, okay, I have to focus more on D4 than against E4, something like this. So in such a case, if there is a clear favorite, so let's say 6-3, so 6 players play E4, only 3 play D4, or 6 players play D4, only 3 play E4. So if there's a clear favorite, then it makes sense to have more than one opening setup against that, because if 6 games you are going to repeatedly play the same thing, it will become more predictable. So if let us say 6 of your opponents are likely to play E4, then maybe it makes sense to prepare one sideline, and then you can use it as a surprise in one of the games. So either if you, let's say you play French, so first 2 games you play French, the third opponent will come expecting you to play French, but you will play that surprising line. Or you can start with the surprise and then play the next 2 E4 games French, something like this. So based on the frequency of the openings, and similarly like against if you are white, what opening. So let's say many of your opponents are likely to play Sicilian Najdorf, then you have to spend more time learning against Najdorf. And again, whichever openings are more likely to come often, it's better to have more than one possibility. If 2 players are playing the same opening, it's better to have 2 different setups against that opening. So this way you have to identify your opponent's openings from their past games and plan your opening strategy. So whichever openings are likely to come more often, try to have variety so that you don't become very predictable. You can surprise your opponent because you have sufficient time to add an extra opening. And the other thing is you can also decide, okay, against this player with black, draw is okay, but against this player even with black I should try to play for win. So again, by using their style or again their form or their rating, you can also identify your likely targets in the tournament and choose openings accordingly. Like if you're trying to win, there's no point in playing a Petrov or a Berlin. So you have to choose your openings accordingly. And also you can try to understand this playing style. So this guy is playing for a draw most of the time, so then you have to take some special strategy you should have against such players if you are aiming for a win against players who are draw specialists. So something like this we have to make plan. So one thing I would suggest is like try to write down all the names of the players, see their games white and black, and make a list of the likely openings that is likely to come in your games, and then give priority to the openings which are coming more often.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the audience, if you have any questions, we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions. But preferably not on book recommendations. Like I said, I will do a separate section on book recommendations in the coming weeks. Okay, so if no further questions, then probably we can end the session with this. Thank you, Mr. Attila.
Thank you very much.
We'll meet again next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so one question I have, I will answer this question and end the stream. So, Pankaj, my 6-year kid afraid of losing games on live matches. However, he does pretty well on tactical puzzles, but afraid to play live matches that often. How to handle this? A 6-year-old child should not be scared of losing games. If that is happening already, like something is going wrong, the child at age of 6, they should play for fun. So we should not include winning and losing equations at such young age. Then someone is doing something extremely wrong. So for a 6-year-old child, the game should just be fun. They should play chess for fun. They should not be playing for any other considerations at such young age. So unless the child enjoys the game, there's no point in playing, putting so much effort. So try to convince your child, like winning and losing doesn't matter at this stage. The child should just enjoy the game, enjoy the beauty of the game. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Attila, we have one message from Mr. Bhavi Puya. Yeah. So he's wishing you to all the best for your tournament.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope I give my best, and we look how it works out.
Yeah.
We put on efforts, and the other things we should let live show.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much.